Hey everybody, so welcome back to Jim Bob's Garden. So today what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this soil, I'm going to add it to what I've got in my wheelbarrow here. Now in the wheelbarrow I've got some existing soil I had from before, and along with a whole bunch of compost. Now I mixed a whole bunch of compost in here to refresh the soil that I have and to be my fertilizer. That's the only fertilizer we're going to use. The only fertilizer we ever use. It's just compost. Now, that's not to say you can't use fertilizer. By all means, if you want to use fertilizer, that's up to you. At some point I'll talk more about that, but I don't use any fertilizer. All I use is compost. Now in this I had, several shovelfuls of regular dirt from previous mixes. And then into that I mixed I think it was like 4 or 5 shovelfuls of compost. Now, I mean, how much you put in, that's entirely up to you. This is all homegrown compost that I grow here. Now, you can buy compost. Just be careful where you're buying it. And make sure that it's actually good compost. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these old plants that I have here. And these were last year's tomatoes that were in pots that I had in my screened-in enclosure. They were my fall tomatoes, and they actually produced fairly well. I got a few tomatoes off of them. I was a little bit late putting them in. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take the old stalks, throw them on the ground, and when I mow, it'll all get crunched up into the mowing. Then I'm going to take the dirt that I had, and I'm going to mix it in with the other dirt. The idea being, I always think it's the stupidest thing to go buy dirt. Dirt is dirt. So, in my opinion, I think that buying dirt is kind of a waste. Now, this dirt, again, was from last year, and it had a lot of compost mixed into it, some potting soil, and so on. And then what I'm going to do is take my little hooker here and I'm going to stir it around, kind of mix everything together, get a nice solid mix of garden soil, potting soil that I had from last year, and compost. Now, I can't recommend enough having a good solid wheelbarrow of some sort, something to haul dirt around in, and to keep dirt in. I usually have this at least partially full of dirt at all times. So when I want some, I can just go grab it and not have to worry about it. And in here, let's see if I can get some good chunks here. I have a lot of my homegrown biochar. Alright, it's just charcoal. It's been in the compost for some time, long enough to allow it to soak up some of the nutrients and the bacteria and the various other things, the life that is in compost. And I want that in there for a couple reasons. One, it's a bank for the bacteria and the good stuff, the life basically in the soil. And two, when you water, it will soak up some of that water, and it's kind of a time release watering system. Now don't get me wrong, you still got to water, but if you forget, you got a little bit of moisture that usually will get soaked into that charcoal that can get pulled back out by the roots. Alright, now what am I going to do? So I got a plan. I want to grow some stuff in my screened-in enclosure because there's less bugs, and particularly I want to get some zucchini, and I probably will do, I don't know about a cucumber. Cucumber really needs something to climb on, so I might be able to do it. But cucumbers, because they got smaller flowers, are a lot harder to hand pollinate, and I'm not going to have a lot of pollinators inside this screened-in enclosure. So Probably won't do the cucumbers. I am going to pot some up for my kids, get them potted up so that, you know, this is Wednesday, so Sunday when they come over, they'll have, you know, settled into the pots good enough to where the roots will start to spread a little bit. And they will, you don't want to pot something up and then have them be replanted again the next day. So if I give them the pots with the plants in them that have sat there for a couple of days at least, they will kind of acclimatize to that, and the shock of being transplanted again so soon thereafter won't be as bad. Alright, so let me go grab some plants. Alright, so to get this done like I want to get it done, you're going to need some stuff. You're going to need plants, which I have a whole bunch of plants, tomato plants and such. Alright, and then of course you're going to need some soil. Now you can go buy your soil or you can make your own, however you want to go about it. What do I recommend? It depends. If you're going to keep it in the pot, whatever pot you're using, then go ahead and use good solid like what I've got here, nice well-built garden soil, or you can buy potting soil, or you know, any basically medium that you can get. I've used garden soil mixed with potting soil before, and I've used that's purchased garden soil. I've also used my garden soil mixed with potting soil. Just be advised that, you know, there is fertilizer in a lot of that garden soil you're buying, so it's not always all organic. And organic potting soil, man, they really want a lot of money for that. So, and keep in mind, you know, I mean, the key to growing your own vegetables is to, you know, do it cheaper than what you can buy them at the store. I mean, they taste better, yeah, I understand that, but you also don't want to have to spend, you know, a ton of money just to get some tomatoes. All right, that's kind of defeating the purpose of growing your own garden. I mean, the whole point is to make it cheaper and easier and better, all at the same time. So with that being said, oh, and also you want some labels and something to mark your labels with, which I have. And if you're old like me, some old man tools, reading glasses and so on, so you can see what you're writing. All right, and then basically all I'm going to do is I'm going to take, so I got some pink fang tomatoes here. So I'm going to go ahead, and I've got 3 on one side. I gotta say, I did not get the germination that I would have hoped for. Out of 6 cells, only 4 of them actually sprouted, and I put several seeds in each cell, and I only got 1 in all the other cells and 3 in this one. So take that for what it is. All right, now with tomatoes and such, they're pretty hardy plants. I know a lot of people are like, oh man, it takes act of Congress to actually grow tomatoes, and that is just not true in my experience. But what you can do is you can actually kind of rough up the soil on the roots, try and get as much of the soil off the roots as you can, and then just kind of shake it and gently pull to try and separate the roots from the plants. All right, now don't go yanking or you'll lose all your roots. Now tomatoes, like I said, are pretty hardy, so they will probably grow back anyway. I had pretty good success doing this in the past. And if you're buying plants, I recommend that you try and find the plants that have got multiples in each cell and do the exact same thing with those. Now I just saw a video online and they were talking about planting tomatoes deep or not. One of the things I've done in the past is I've always tried to plant up on the stem, or down on the stem, I guess I should say, to where they're buried, like say about this deep. When I do that, the idea is the roots will form all along there. But they have shown that that doesn't really help all that much. So we're not going to do that on these. I'm going to go ahead and just plant them as is. I'll spread the roots out a little bit. I'll set them in there. And I'm just going to fill up the pot. Now, I will say that oftentimes you do want to go at least a little bit up on the stem just to make sure that the plant is in there solid and isn't going to fall over right away. Alright? And it's just as simple as that. Always pack your pot very full. And the reason for that is as you water, the dirt will compact and shrink down some. Alright? And then make sure you label so that you know what you got. and boom, you're done. Simple as that. So I'm gonna go ahead and pot up a bunch of this, and we'll get back to you when we got it all done and kind of show you what we got. All right. Now when it comes to the bigger pots, you'll probably find it's a lot easier to go ahead and use a shovel. Fill the bottom. Now, a lot of people will tell you that you got to put rocks on the bottom. And there's been some experimentation I've seen online that was done and showed that that's just not true. You don't need a shovel. You just need, a shovel. You don't need rocks on the bottom. As long as you've got drainage holes, it will drain out just fine. And they proved this through a couple of experiments. But you don't need to stack a bunch of rocks on the bottom of your pots, okay? That's my opinion. Do what you want, don't get me wrong, but especially, again, don't go buying stuff you don't need to buy. Like all of these pots were bought as, with plants in them. And I kept the pots. I save them, I reuse them over and over and over again. And then like you got things like this. It's an old shop vac that died. I went ahead and drilled holes in the bottom. Now I got a pot on wheels that I put my tomato in. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and pot up some of these. The only thing I would tell you is, let's see, what am I putting in this one? I want to put Homestead. We're going to put a Homestead in here. So when you go to planting it, depending on if you want to try and plant them deep or not, you want to kind of get the soil up to the level of where you're going to want, where the roots are going to start. All right, so like on this one here, this is a nice big pot, so I'm going to go ahead and bring it up about 2-3 more inches. And on the bigger pots like this, you're going to get a lot more settling, but that's okay, because as the summer goes along, you might find that you want to go ahead and put some compost in there, and you can just top it off with compost, and then as you water it, it'll filter down through the compost and feed your plants that way. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and do this one. Yeah. Now, I'll tell you another thing too, is you see a lot of guys and girls that are gardening, and you'll always use gloves. And I'm not going to say you shouldn't, but a gardener who uses gloves all the time is kind of like a skinny cook. I mean, it's hard to trust him. All right, if you got something in your soil that is messing with your hands, imagine what that soil is going to create that you're going to put inside your body. And if it irritates the outside of your body, I mean, think about it. I also think that getting your hands in the dirt is good for good for your mind, good for your soul, and I think it's good for your health. All right, a little bacteria, a little bit of microorganisms and so on and so forth, getting into your skin. I think this does your world of good. All right, highly recommend it. I don't use gloves unless I've got thorns or something else that I don't want to have to deal with barehanded. All right, so basically that's what you do with a pot. And then since these are going to be on the inside, I'll go ahead and put a tomato cage on it. Now this is another thing, tomato cages. Should you use them or should you not use them? I use mine all the time. And they're like, well, they only last like a year. Well, I got these painted ones for, I don't know, like $5 a piece. I can't remember exactly what the price was. And they're at least 4 or 5 years old. And they're still going strong. I don't have an issue with them. Do what you want. If you feel like there's a better way of going about staking them up and so on, you can spend a lot of money. But once again, that's more money you're spending on your garden. By the way, this is not my cat. This is a stray that has shown up. So if you're watching this video and you're missing a cat, is this yours? My wife and kids have decided to take care of it, and you can see it is not at all bashful. and it's very, very mellow, almost like it's already been domesticated. So, me, I'm not really into cats, so you do what you want. But if you need a cat, let me know. All right, we're here in Jacksonville. Leave me a message, we'll hook you up. All right, so that's how I do the big pots. So again, let me go ahead and start finishing up, doing the rest of them, and we'll go on. Now, as far as how big do you want? I grew tomatoes in a 3-gallon pot last year, and it grew fine. Would it have grown bigger if it had more dirt? I mean, yeah, that's fine. If you got bigger pots, by all means, go ahead and use bigger pots. But again, don't go spending a lot of money. Sometimes you can get these at garden centers or other places where they're looking to get rid of pots. Though, I mean, I don't know how often that happens. I've seen places where they're advertising, you know, hey, we got a bunch of pots we got to get rid of, you want them taken. And that's all good. But, I mean, if you go out and you spend $500 on pots, you got to grow a lot of groceries to make up for that $500. Just something to keep in mind. All right, let me get this all going on. We'll get them all planted in, and then we'll go ahead and get them watered, and I'll show you the end result. Okay, so this is what we got. Got a couple of zucchini, a cucumber, a whole bunch of tomatoes. Got some peppers there, another pepper there, zucchini, another zucchini. Over here are the onions for my kids, and then one tomato, which I got to figure out where I'm going to put yet. And then I got the zucchini I want to keep in a pot there. Some of our strawberries there. Let's go over here. All of this needs to be cleaned up. Weeds pulled.
I'm working on it too.
Say hi, Mama.
Hi.
Yeah, she's out here chopping down the roses. We got a whole bunch of the, what were they called? Do you remember? Knockout roses, that's what they are. So over here what I have, this is some stuff I already had potted. So that one's gonna have to go in a bigger pot. So last year I grew some papaya trees. That's my one papaya that survived. The rest of them all froze off, so I put that one in the garage and saved it. And then over here, there's a blackberry that was given to me that is just starting to bud out. Start to put some leaves on, hopefully. Next to that is going to be my one zucchini. Another zucchini I'm going to keep in a pot. That's a Brazilian cherry tree, which has never made cherries. And that is a star fruit tree from seed. We'll see if it ever produces or if it's any good. And then a couple of tomatoes over here. This area actually gets sprinkled by the sprinkler, so I like to keep as much as I can over in this area because it does get watered. So that's what we got. That's what we got done today.
It's part of nature. It's still a part of nature. We're a nature preserve. We're not supposed to kill anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We are a nature preserve after all.
Yeah, we are.
Alright, so we shouldn't kill anything. Ever. I don't know about all that. Either way, so that's how I go about potting up all my different vegetables and all that. Typically now, alright, so one of the things, like I said, I watched this video today, and it was talking about, you know, how much better things did if you potted them up, and particularly tomatoes, if you buried them deep versus, you know, just leaving them at the level they were. And it pretty much showed that, I mean, it doesn't really make a difference. All right, all of the extra roots that you get along the vine, you know, if you bury it deep, really doesn't help the tomatoes that much. It doesn't appear. And I'll be honest with you, I've been doing it that way for a while, and I don't know that it's actually made a difference. All right, I really don't know that it's helped. And it hadn't hurt anything, but I don't know that it's really, you know, done a great job. Now, I will say, if you've gotten long, spindly tomatoes, then by all means bury them deep so that they got some strength to hold them up, and then they'll grow bigger and stronger as they come up out of the actual soil. If you've got plants in pots, it's getting to be time where you need to get them in the ground. All right, particularly with tomatoes, it's going to take you probably close to 90 days, so 3 months from now before you really start getting any kind of production from them. And then shortly after that, so you know, March, April, May, and that gives you June and maybe the first part of July here in Florida before everything gets too hot and it starts to nuke them out, and you know, they're going to die back. So you've only got you know, maybe 4 months of tomato growth. So if you've got them already potted, get them in the ground. If not, you might want to think about buying some plants somewhere, or seeing if, you know, like you got a neighbor like I do. He's got a bunch in pots. He kind of put a few too many in, and he was kind enough to give me some. I did give him some, though I didn't take care of him as well as he did. I just handed him some stuff, and you know, he had to separate it himself, which I apologize for there, Gordon. I should have put those in pots for you. I apologize. At any rate, so if you got them in pots, now's a great time to start getting them out. Between now and the end of this month, I mean, you pretty much got to have everything out. All right, which is what I'm working on right now. Getting them in pots so I can give them away, or so I can hold on to them for a little while until I actually get them in the ground. If you can't put them in the ground right now for whatever reason, you might want to think about potting them up, putting them in a bigger pot so they have room for the roots to expand and continue to grow. Because I'm telling you, man, with the warm weather we've had, all of my stuff has gone crazy. Tomatoes, I mean, I've already got zucchini that's got flowers and such. You know, they're still in the starter pots. So, I mean, it's time to get them out. If you haven't planted anything yet, I mean, get to planting. I mean, you're going to run out of time. You know, we've only got so much time before the summertime heat hits. And around here, there isn't a lot that lives through that summer heat. Heat and humidity. And I really believe it's the nighttime temperatures, because it gets the soil to where it never cools off, so it really starts to get hot. And that's, I think, what kills everything off. All right, but either way, that's what I got going on here today, getting everything potted up. I appreciate you stopping by. Do me a favor, give me a like and a subscribe, and let me know what you think. And if you know somebody that's thinking about starting into the garden, by all means, you know, share a video, show them what I got. You know, I'm not pretending to be the expert, but I do try and give you the best information I have. All right, so thanks again. You all come back and see me and get something growing. Grow something.